All right, how does it sound? Just a small problems here with the camera, of course. Even though I tested everything. All right, thank you. First chat. This is a little bit special. I haven't done these live sessions since I don't know. Many years ago was a couple of live sessions, and of course the first frame that I did, the last frame of the boat there, that was done in the live stream. All right, that's good. That's good. So I have this wireless microphone. I have only this one camera. It's kind of stationary with the wire, so I cannot move the camera much, but I try to explain here what I'm doing and go with the process. So as you can see, the first plank is here waiting to be installed. There's 4 pieces of the plank and everything should be ready, although I still need to clean up a little bit, so I need to use the vacuum. Sorry about the noise in just a moment, but yeah, everything is kind of ready. So this whole thing, the lower section has been shaped to the final shape, and it should accept the planks like this. And I have now also the joints in there. I show you a little. So here is the joint for the planks. This is made with that big, very dangerous router. So these are done, and I think they work very well. I might need to have some backing plywood things to clamp them down while gluing, but I think it will work. And yeah, I'm gonna move the camera a little. Sorry about the mess. There's a horrible mess all over here, and I just should spend 2 days of cleaning stuff here every now and then, but yeah, it hasn't been possible lately, unfortunately. So there is some stuff going on, but this is my mixing station here. You might have seen it several occasions already, but yeah, here's the epoxy, the resin and hardener. I'm gonna use this stuff. I have now the barrel of the new epoxy over there waiting, but I haven't used that just yet, so I'm not gonna use it for now. But it's now 15 degrees or something in here. It's summer outside. I'll show you view outside. It's summer. It has been a rainy, cloudy day today, so it's nice and not cold, but yeah, I think it's pretty much perfect temperature for this thing. And feel free to ask any questions. I try to look at them every now and then on the screen, although when I have my hands with the epoxy, I might not be able to kind of use the computer that much, but I can see the questions there. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn the volume down a little bit. I'm gonna vacuum first the edge here. There's still some dust in here. I want to get rid of that, and also because there is really no access in that cavity anymore after I glue this first plank in, or it's a little bit difficult, so I want to have that as clean as possible. So I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit first, and you can watch me using a vacuum cleaner, which is pretty exciting, I think. Yeah, it's going to be loud. Let's turn the camera a little. The mic is wireless, so I can speak you from here, but let's take those. Hearing protection. It's a little bit loud thing to have, but I was hoping to get this done before the live stream started, but didn't manage to do that. Although I'm gonna need some power somewhere. Sorry. Fortunately, that computer is a laptop, so it has its own battery, so I can use the power for a moment. Sorry about the noise. All right, that's done. Let's turn up the volume again. Now it should be okay. Yeah. So now it's clean. As in many cases in, well, making boats or anything else, the prep work is much more than the actual work. But now I think the prep work should be done. So there's these temporary frames here. This one, they're a bit flimsy, but there's now tape in there, so epoxy shouldn't stick on those. For everything else, the epoxy should stick. So it should be good. Now it's nothing more than just starting to mix some epoxy, and I'm gonna start there on the front. Too bad this camera isn't wireless, so I can't really move it that much. This is the most that I can move it really. But I'm gonna start here in the front. And yeah, I did this shaping to this first plank. Gonna show you that first. So here is a kind of notch here in the front, and it goes in there in that what's that called? Push pit area, and there's a plywood that this goes over like that over there. So it should now fit in there, and there's a little bit of a gap, but it will be filled with epoxy. I was first kind of thinking that I should cut off this cove bed. I don't remember which way it is. I was going to get this off, but then I decided I'm not going to do that, because there is this inside corner here that this plank should go into, and it's probably not perfect. So having a small radius there is actually a good thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that and just fill the excess area with some epoxy. And really the good thing about starting the planking with this plank over there is that it's not really that structural, so to speak. It's the top of the bulwark really. So the actual structure of the boat really starts somewhere over here. So if this goes a little bit sideways, it's not a end of the world. But I try to do as well as I can, of course. So yeah, let's turn the camera this way. This mixing station. This is a pretty established process already. I have a scale here, resin hardener, gloves, some paper towels to clean up stuff. Then I finally purchased these single-use cups, which makes everything kind of so much easier really. I was using, well, for a long time I used these little bit thicker plastic cups, and yeah, they work well, and I like that they are round on the bottom, so there's not a corner there, but yeah, it was always a little bit of mess to clean them up, but yeah, a little bit more waste, but so much easier to use these. So yeah, well, I think the first thing is to mix some, maybe I should make an unthickened batch of epoxy first. So the idea of this glue up is that of course there's going to be a bead of epoxy in this corner to glue this in, and on the frames, of course, to glue frame into the corners, frames and everything. But I also want to coat the backside of the plank with epoxy, because yeah, this area is really, there is really no good access here anymore after these planks are in. So I want to do the epoxy coating while I'm gluing them in. So maybe I could start with that, to coat this backside first, have a coat of epoxy there, and it doesn't hurt to have the epoxy on the surfaces as well before I put the thickened stuff in there. So maybe we'll start with that. Coat that with first unthickened stuff and then make another batch of thickened. There was a question, does it make any difference which way you turn the cove? Not sure what you mean, but the kind of, I think this was the cove and this is the bead. Anyway, it's gonna be like this, so the cove should be up, so I can later put bit of epoxy here and it stays put when I'm putting the second plank in. So that's the idea. So this way they go like that. All right. Let's start mixing some glue. First I need to get something to drink. Trying not to mix my drinking water with some acetone or something else. One detail that I haven't really discussed is these gloves. I have these thicker gloves and they work super well on the first layer, because the regular gloves are pretty thin and they tend to rip off easily. But these can stand the whole day of work. And it's when your hands are sweating inside and you take the gloves off, all gloves, it's super annoying to try to put the next gloves in because your hands are sticky and yeah. So first I put these thicker gloves and then I use these thinner ones on top. And idea of using 2 pairs of gloves on top of each other is very good idea. You always get your hands messed up with epoxy and then you just need to change the top gloves. Wow, there is plenty of people. I remember when I did the first live stream back in the days, there was 2 or 3 people watching that. There's over 50, 65. Whoa. Hello everybody, welcome. We're just starting to mix the glue for the first plank. So I'm using a scale here. This is the resin, and now I need to kind of figure out how much. If I make just unthickened, I think 150 grams is enough for coating that area. so. It's always a good idea to wipe the excess because otherwise it will kind of drip down and mess up everything. Yep, and then 150, 45 grams of this. Then some mixing, and I'm gonna actually get my drill. So I am mostly using the drill to mix the epoxy. It creates quite a lot of air bubbles in there, but if you are rolling it out, it doesn't really matter. It will break the bubbles out. That's it. Okay, then we need a roller. Let's take that one. I'm using these thin single-use trays. They are good enough for that, and they're always single-use in this application. So I have been using these quite a lot, and yeah, epoxy doesn't really stick to them, but there's always some kind of cavities or something where the sticks in the half. It's a little bit annoying. Yeah, and as I told you, this is fast hardener, so I need to be pretty fast to spread this out. But when it's spread out in a large area, it will work nicely. I just now turn the camera over there, like so. So now I'm rolling the epoxy on the backside of this plank. I'm trying not to put epoxy on that cove because there will be a second plank later put in there, so I need to clean that up if there's any epoxy there, so need to be a little bit careful. here we go. And this layer is just for protecting the plank from water, so I hope this is thick enough for that application. There was this fiberglass on these surfaces, but I'm probably not gonna be able to put any fiberglass behind there, so that's why. Okay, there's a little bit too much epoxy here, but I can use it. I can thicken that and use it. So. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Trying to put enough to protect the surface very well. So in this wood epoxy build there should be no exposed wood anywhere in the boat after it's done, so no moisture, water or anything can go into the wood later, so that's why. This wood is just regular spruce, Finnish spruce. It has knots on it, but it's all kind of how would I call it? Well, the planer guy told that it's kind of in the middle of the wood, so in spruce the big branches of knots are on the outside, of course, so this should have only kind of small knots on it. And it does. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, a little bit left over. Maybe I could spread it down there, because the plywood is actually soaking a lot more epoxy than kind of regular wood. I have noticed that earlier, so I'm gonna spread rest of this in this area. Many of the instructions on YouTube and everywhere else say that when you're gluing things with epoxy, you should always put first unthickened epoxy on the wood before putting the thickened stuff. And that's true, I believe, because if the wood soaks up the epoxy a lot from that glue, it can be too dry. But in my case, I really haven't noticed any big difference there. I know you can always kind of leave the thickened epoxy a little bit too liquid. So there's plenty of that stuff to be soaked from. But only when I noticed that it does make difference is when you're gluing two plywoods together. When I glued up the side decks there in the front, where those two plywood layers together, the plywood tends to soak up the epoxy much more than regular wood. So when I did the frames, it was kind of regular wood only. There was no issues whatsoever with that. But that plywood is a different story. Right, now there's glue in there. Put some more in this. Yeah, and this epoxy turned a little bit kind of thick, so even though it's 15 degrees, this fast hardener is really fast hardener. So I need to be pretty fast when I'm doing the big batches of thickened stuff. All right. Right now I've removed the first layer of gloves, and now I can touch something again without putting epoxy everywhere. Okay, there's some well, coating first. Yeah, the problem with coating with epoxy first is that when epoxy cures, the surface comes very kind of shiny and slippery. And if you want to glue something on that later, you really need to sand it and remove the amine blush, the blush that forms on the surface. So it's easier this way. Now there's a coat of epoxy in that plank. I think it should be enough. It's all shiny and there's no dry spots. So when I put it there, it should be okay. All right. Then, next batch of thickened epoxy. I actually have two kinds of thickening agent here. The first one is the familiar, if you have been following some sale build channels, is this fumed silica. This is very light and very kind of dusty stuff, probably not good for health. And this gives the epoxy very consistent. It comes very smooth and kind of, yeah, smooth. But then I also have the pine dust, which has more structure in it, and with that the epoxy comes kind of grainy. There's sticks and kind of pointy stuff in there. I've been using that pine dust in all of this underneath the fiberglass here, and it works well. There tends to be a little bit of air bubbles in there. You can't really get them all off, but I think it's all right. Now I'm just thinking which I should use with that. Maybe I could go with, because there's quite a lot of filling to do, maybe I could go with pine dust in this case. Although there in the middle, when I put the blank on the frames, there's really not much of filling there. It's just very kind of smooth gap, so to speak. So yeah, I need to think about that in a few minutes, but let's first mix the next batch. And I think I'm gonna need 300 grams at least, I think. Maybe even 400. Maybe I'll do 300. It's easy to mix some more, but if I mix too much and it starts to kick, and then I'm in trouble. So smaller batches are easier when it's not very cold. So yeah, let's turn this camera again here a little. So when I'm talking about 300 grams, I'm talking about the resin. The mix ratio is 100 to 30. So 100 grams of resin with 30 grams of hardener, and so on. So 300 of this. I'm using the same cup. It hasn't cured yet, so it's all right. $300. Then 90 grams of this. Yeah, it's pretty easy with this mixing ratio. The new epoxy that I haven't really tried yet, it has a very kind of weird mixing ratio. I think it was 13.5 or something. So I need to figure that out a little. Whoop. It's okay. Like so. Yeah, this thing makes it mixing much faster than with hand mixing. I'm gonna go with this fumed silica stuff. Trying not to breathe that. little bit more. I think it's kind of 2 of these cups. This is 25, 2.5 deciliters. Now it's pretty thick, it stays in cup, but now I need to be really fast. And I think I'm gonna use these plastic bags for spreading it. It's quite fast, very easy. So let's go with that. And put this thing on there. Yeah, this is bad to have the epoxy a long time in a cup because it generates a lot of heat, and when it heats up it cures even faster and generates more heat, and then it cures even faster. So that's the kind of the problem with this fast hardener and the warm weather. So, do I have the knife? Yeah. All right, here goes nothing. Turn the camera over there. And I'm gonna cut the end off from this. Like so. Then just spreading the glue in. Gonna start with this corner. There's a little bit of cavity here, need to fill that up. I'm not sure if this 300 grams is enough for this, probably not. And remember, this is my first plank, and this is the hardest plank to put. There's a lot of surfaces to put the glue to, so bear with me. Okay, that's it. Then the surface of these frames. So let's start here. Gonna put some glue in here. I don't think we need very much because the whoop, it's a little messing with this. Because the fit of the frame is pretty good on those frames. These things have a little bit more gap. But let's see how that goes. this wasn't enough. A little bit annoyingly too little, maybe that 100 grams more would have been enough. Let's see. Yeah, wasn't enough for now. Take that stick, spread it a little bit here. Messed up a little bit here. Annoyingly close. It was just not enough. Just slightly too little. This is annoying. I need to make just a small batch more. The important thing right now is that the glue is spread, so I'm not in a super hurry anymore when it's not in the cup. Well, maybe this could be enough actually. Let's see. One thing I noticed already, I should have put a mark over there how high this plank comes. So now I have to eyeball it. Maybe this is too low. Okay. Some comments in here. Hello from Texas. Just amazes me every time when I kind of somehow realize that there is people literally all over the world watching this, my jammering and duding. All right, let's try. I think the height might be too low still. I need to add some more glue over there, but I try to kind of try this a little. Is there enough glue in there? Yeah. I try to kind of mark the correct height first, so I'm gonna do a second batch, maybe 150 grams more, so that I can fill out everything. Yeah, a little bit more, a little bit more. Let's make, I think I'm gonna make 200 grams more, and it should be enough, and I can always put extra over there in that fillet. So more is not bad in this case. Whew. It's getting hot when you're doing something. I might need to get my hoodie off soon. Normally I just listen some music or audiobook, but now it's kind of weird to kind of jam around with this. What time is it? It's almost an hour already. I was thinking this might be a kind of a 2-hour job, but yeah, it looks like it's gonna be more like a 4-hour job. Well, maybe I'm faster with the rest of the planks. The difficult part is to always to kind of figure out how much epoxy you need in every position there. I have pretty good eyeball already for that, for these fiberglassing and stuff, but yeah, this is first time for this, so didn't go that well. What did I say? 200. $200 grams. Then 60. Okay, there are some people joining, streaming hour behind. Well, nothing really exciting has happened just yet, so welcome. Michigan. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Yeah, run sailing is, yeah, I'm little, I invite them a little bit because they're doing this full time and I'm not. And maybe someday. Okay, then some thickening. Sorry, I might be off the camera here in the side, but a little bit difficult to move the camera all the time. Mixing the thickening agent into this epoxy. This might be okay already. Okay. I think I'm just gonna go without the bag this time. Just add more. The bag is really good, spreading the epoxy easily and really fast. Now I'm just adding a little bit more here and there. Here we need some more. The front was too little. This gap still. Okay. I think we're good now. I'm just gonna put rest of this stuff there in the bottom seam where it looks like there's a little bit of scars. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Now there's epoxy and. Yeah, now we're gonna need a drill and some screws. trying not to put epoxy on this drill or impact driver. I'm sorry about the noise, that is very loud thing to use. I didn't put any sawdust in this time. I wanted to have very kind of low grain epoxy between the frames and the plank, so sawdust tends to be a little bit grainy. And, so now I'm gonna get some screws from here. So we're gonna put the plank in temporarily with screws. This is gonna come off, and as I mentioned in the beginning, there was just a few people back then. There is now in the building plans that there should be screws permanently attached there, but I need to discuss that with Mr. Tanton still. I wouldn't like to have any metal parts holding things together, so if I can replace them with wooden dowels, I will add them later. But yeah, now this goes in. Let's put it there on the front first, of course. Can you see me? No, sorry. Let's turn this camera this way. Now we can see this area. So I'm putting the first screw here in the front because the important measure is to start from here. Whoop. Like so. Then I'm gonna add a screw in here, and I'm gonna bend this flank in. Yeah, they bend quite easily. It's not a problem at all. Nice squeeze out there. Let's put another screw here. I'm gonna try to push it down a little bit as well. Yeah, look at that. Nice squeeze out. It's could be a little bit lower here, but I think it's good enough. Let's put another here. Sorry about the noise. This is horribly noisy thing, but very powerful, and I really love this thing. Yeah, it looks good. Nice squeeze out on all of the frames. Those are the important part. These things, they are not that crucial to have a full contact. It was a little bit tricky to have the shape exactly right for these, but I'm still gonna add a screw here because I can see it's a little bit off from that plywood edge which is over there. So think it looks good. Yeah. More squeeze out, which is always a good sign. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Now I'm grabbing another stick and clean up that squeeze out. This wire is a little bit short, but I tried, if you can see, can you see the squeeze out over there? Over there should be quite nice squeeze out. So I'm gonna clean up that first. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, now I mentioned earlier that maybe I should have a tape on this top cove to protect it from epoxy, and I can see now that that could be a good idea because the squeeze out tends to go in there, and in order to glue the next one I need to sand that off, that excess epoxy over there. So yeah, I might do that on the next planks. There's a little bit of a gap here. I'm gonna fill this up quickly. I made this gap a little bit too big because I was going to shape off from the bottom edge, but then I decided not to do that, so now this gap is too big here. Well, the nice thing with wood epoxy construction is that you can easily fix your mistakes just adding more epoxy and filling agent. And oh boy, there is some mistakes on this boat. After all, I'm complete amateur. I have never done anything like this before, so a lot of things to learn, of course. Maybe the next boat would be nicer and easier built. There's a little bit of gap in here. Need to squeeze in a little bit. Yeah. All right, what do you think? Does it look like a plank? But hey, it's the first one. I think I know the process now a little bit better. Not much extra epoxy actually. There could have been even a little bit more of the stuff, but and as I was a little bit worried about the back edge, it's quite hard to reach. I should make a fillet over there, but I wait until this epoxy kicks a little bit. It's easier to kind of shape when it's a little bit thicker, and I will add some more there later. Whew. Okay, that was the first of 4 for today. Now a small break to have something to drink. Look at this. These. Right. Thanks for the comments. Yeah. All right, the next plank. First I need to do that 200 grams of epoxy, just to spread it on the backside. Then what I did, 300 and 200, although 500 grams of epoxy, a thickened epoxy to glue it in. 500 grams is a little bit on the high side I can do on the one batch. So maybe I'll go with 300 and 200 as well, this one. But now I know how much I need. It's always a little bit tricky to figure out that first. Yeah. But the connection with the frames looks very good. That's the important thing. One thing, I think there was mentioned that maybe I should pre-drill those holes, but actually I have now experience of pre-drilling holes with epoxy glue-ups, and it doesn't work. If there is this hole pre-drilled, epoxy goes into that hole and it glues the screw in that hole as well, and then it doesn't come out. There is now actually quite many screws permanently in the boat because I couldn't get them off. They just snapped immediately. And pre-drilling is not a good idea. You need to put the screw in the without any holes. Actually, there was already old hole there in the front. I'm suspecting that might snap in there, but we'll see about that. But yeah, no pre-drilling. Have you considered using spot nails, 15 gauge or something? That might be some kind of United States unit. Plastic composite finish nails. Actually, I have plastic composite staple gun. I'm using staples to put the thinner stuff in, and I'm going to use that when we put the veneer on top of this. We're going to need that staple gun to put the veneer, but not for this application. I was actually discussing with company that does wooden nails. That would have been interesting, but they weren't sure how they behave in marine environment, so they didn't recommend. But yeah, screws are okay. And if we need some permanent screws or things, I try to use doubles, wooden doubles, not to have any metal fasteners there. Right, now I can turn the camera this way. You can see the mixing and also the plank over there. Let's make a little bit room here first. All right. So 150. Yeah. How much I did? 150 grams, I think. Yeah, I think it was okay. 150. Not sure how many of you stay here at the end, because there are still 3 planks to go, and then I need to make the fillet on the backside. But yeah, and I'm already a little bit tired, so we'll see how this goes. I try to be fast. This always takes a little bit time. When we are having the planking parties in the future, one thing is someone mixing the epoxy all the time. That makes things so much faster. So everything is ready. Whoop. $170. Okay, a little bit too much. Calculate. Okay. I'm not trusting my head calculation skills at all, so I need to make sure that I do the right calculations. Okay, this is now the initial epoxy. Okay, and here we have the tray that I used 1 hour ago, and it's already kind of very stick, and yeah, I can't use this anymore. So I need to change the roller. Yeah, it's too bad this method uses quite a lot of all kinds of consumables, but that's just the way it is. It's the wrong one. Oh, there's two. Okay, so if you weren't here from the beginning, this first coat is to protect the backside of the plank, because there is no really access to that backside anymore after this. So I'm adding a layer of epoxy on the backside so that the wood is protected from water forever. So that's the reason for this first. And this is not necessary when we go higher here, so everything else can be done without this layer. We can then coat the backside later, but these first layers have to be treated now. So I'm gonna put some epoxy on that seam over there to soak it up well. It would be nice to have some kind of band playing some music here in the background. I don't have to jammer all the time, something to keep some noise or audio in the stream. Actually, I'm gonna roll now a little bit of epoxy on these as well because now I put it too high. I forgot I needed to mark the. Actually, I'm gonna do that now before I continue. I want to have a mark there to see how high I need to put the epoxy to. Let's use this. Try not to go over this because it makes the next layers harder to put in. I'm gonna do that here. That should help. I wonder if that 92 viewers means that there is 92 of you at the moment there. 95. I think it is. That's awesome. That's more than 10 times what there was in the first live session years ago. When we did the first frame. It was an 8-hour live stream. I think there was one dude that mentioned that he was there the whole time watching. Yeah, that was the first frame, and I can assure you I learned a lot after that. But I still believe that the method I made the frames with was actually pretty good. It was quite straightforward eventually, and the result that the frames are very accurate, I think. I think it worked very well. This fast hardener is very fast indeed. All right. I think that's good. Let's roll the rest of this stuff on here. A good coat. That's it. Some Germany is in here. Welcome. Is there anyone from Australia or somewhere over there? Whew. All right. Now, I used 500 grams over there, but there was actually that front section that took quite a bit. So maybe 400 grams would be enough for this. Let's try that. I think 400 grams is maximum that can fit in this cup. So that's why. That would make it easier, only 2 batches per plank. $400. Ontario, Canada. I have relatives in Ontario, Canada. I have visited there when I was 12 years old in Toronto, and 120. As you can see, this is quite full now with 400 grams and 120 of hardener. So this is a little bit on the higher side to fit in this cup. And thickening stuff. This can be now a little bit tricky when this is so full, but I try to manage and try not to breathe this stuff. A little bit too much for this cup. Wonder if I can survive. I need quite a lot more. Actually, I need to change to stick because it takes too much volume in that cup, that thing. So I need to continue just manual. This is still too liquid. Not good. It is so light and kind of airy. It tends to spread all over the place. Now I'm a little worried that I'm too slow with this. It will start to kick soon. Especially because I need to hold it in my hand, which makes it even more, still too. No, this wasn't a good idea. Please remind me in the next batch, only 300 grams into this cup. Yeah, I think it's thick enough. I need to get it fast out of that cup, because it will kick very, very fast when it starts to heat up. The problem really is if it starts to kick up too fast, it becomes like, well, it becomes harder, and then it can be difficult to make a proper squeeze out. It doesn't move anymore that well. So that's the problem if it's too hardened already. Not yet heated up that much, which is good. We're in time. And the reason being this is fast hardener. I don't have any slow hardener anymore. So now let's just squeeze it in there. Like so, and then some in here. Same problem again, a little bit too little for this whole thing. Maybe I'll put a little bit too much over there on the front first. It should be pretty good fit here, if I remember right. Okay, but now it's off the bag. That's the important thing. And there's this joint in here as well. It's pretty tight joint, so there's not a lot need for a lot of epoxy there, but still good squeeze out is a good thing as well. Okay, I think it was enough. Screw a stick from here. How long is the side going to take? I assume you mean this first plank going in. Well, it took a little bit less than an hour to put the first plank, and now we are on the second, but this should go a little bit faster now when I get used to the process. A little bit of learning always with these. I'm gonna spread this a little bit here. Small gap in there to fill that up. Yeah, I think this looks all right. Could have been a little bit more thick, this batch, but there wasn't room in the cup, so trying to lift this up a little bit. when the wood soaks up the epoxy a little bit from the batch, it comes a little bit thicker, so that helps, of course. The important thing is the joints with the frames. As I mentioned, these first planks, they're not really crucially structural planks. They're just the top side of the bulwark, really. But yeah, let's put this in. We're gonna start here. Smoosh. Put it in there. Push it down. Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna change the gloves and grab the driver. Some screws. Where is it? Here. Right, all right. Let's start with this frame in here. Okay, now there's this joint. I think it could just manage with the single screw. Let's see if this splits. If it tries to split, then I'm gonna add some might need a second one. I'll add small plywood pieces on both sides to clamp it together, but for now it looks all right. Let's continue with this frame. Sorry about the noise. The noise with this thing is horrible. I know it hurts my ears. I normally use hearing protection when I'm using this thing. There's actually a little bit short. I need to put a little bit more epoxy over there. Oh no, now I messed up with the first layer of gloves. I need to put second ones on top. I forgot. Let's get some squeeze out from here. Just a little bit further. I think that's good. Yep. That looks actually. Let's see. Tiny gap in there. Gonna add one more screw there. Some sort of high spot in here. That's good. All right, second plank in. Just 2 more to go, and the last one is a little bit shorter. Whew. My gloves are completely soaked with sweat, and now it's almost impossible to put new gloves in a couple of minutes because hands are so sticky. If you are anything to ask it now. Now I have a little bit time to answer you. Whoa, almost 1,000 views already. That's amazing. Last live session have been kind of a couple of viewers and a few hundred views altogether. Thank you so much. This means a lot. Maybe I could do these live sessions not this long, maybe. Well, this is a kind of a milestone, of course, to make a first planks. Put the first planks in, but maybe I can do shorter, kind of more interactive live sessions as well. I think I did some kind of design work live session back in the days. Maybe that could be a good idea when I start to design the interior of the boat. There has been, there is already a design for the interior, but I haven't really done any final decisions about that before I see the inside space, because as you may know, I'm an architect. I design buildings as my profession, but designing a boat, it's quite different. All the measurement, the world of measurements is completely different. If there is a corridor in a house, it's like 1 meter wide at minimum, maybe even wider, and but in a boat, 600 millimeters or narrower is all right. It's plenty. So yeah, there is stuff to learn me when doing the final interior design. A human being can actually fit in pretty tight spaces if he wants. Ooh. Now I think it's time for a snack banana. No questions. All right. Everything is clear for everyone. Sorry about the noise, chewing noises. I can assure you my wife loves me biting stuff. The noise that comes out. I wonder if she's watching. Probably not. Okay, but we are halfway there. It takes a little bit of time the squeeze out to really come out. So I'm waiting for a while. Then I'm gonna go and clean up as much as I can. I need to put some clamp in there. Maybe I could actually use a clamp instead of screw. Yeah. I've been thinking if I do just one plank row at a time, then I can use clamps, just regular clamps to clamp those in. But when there is maybe 2 to 3 layers in one session, I hope, I really hope, then the clamp doesn't reach over there, so then I need to use some backing plywood pieces or something like that. But yeah, maybe in this case I can just put a clamp in there. All right, now my hands are dry enough to put another pair of gloves. I agree, when both will be turned over, that it's gonna be a major day. That could be actually a live session as well. Multiple cameras, wireless cameras, live action. Yeah, we'll see about that. I was actually a little bit surprised. These new cameras, they don't provide wireless connection with the video through Wi-Fi or anything. I was a little surprised actually. I was expecting to be able to connect my main camera, that camcorder, to this wirelessly, but yeah, it didn't work. It actually didn't work at all through a USB. I needed to use this action camera instead. Yeah, this seems to work well. And the wireless mic, I think it works well as well. So not sure how long the battery lasts. Continuous use, but several hours, I think. Yeah, let's now make a little bit of a cleanup for that and put the clamp in there, and then another batch. Yeah, there's always, I was going to do this yesterday already. I was very tired of the last week's sailing trip and everything else and all the work things, and I couldn't get out of the sofa yesterday really. But there's also always a little bit of kind of emotional barrier starting a big new thing like this. So is everything going well? Have I figured out everything? It has been the same thing when I started to glue up the frames, when I started to glue up the those big pieces and everything. Always when something new big is happening, there's always this kind of threshold to really push forward and do that. But yeah, I think I'm glad I started this today. Let's make a little bit of a cleanup first here. Yeah, this definitely needs a clamp. Clamp in here. Yeah, but as mentioned, this epoxy is It's quite forgiving stuff. It squeezes in and it binds so super well to everything really. So I'm pretty happy how this turns out. Okay, there's a lot of extra in that gap. A little bit more. Yeah, but a little bit of sanding and cleaning up afterwards is needed to fit the next plank in here. It's unavoidable, I think. Right. There could have been a little bit more here, but there's a squeeze out inside there a little bit. I think that's good. All right. All right. I think that's all right. Whoop. Next batch. What time it is? Okay, it has been now 2 hours, a little bit more than 2 hours from the beginning. So 1 hour per plank, which is okay, I guess. Because the estimate was this to take a couple of hours. So it's within boat building estimation. Everything just takes so much longer. All right. 150 again. Yeah, one thing about the next layers of planking. There's still one thing I'm discussing with Mr. Tanton. That is actually the width of the planks, and his instructions was that they would be square, so 28 by 28 millimeters. Obviously, my planks are much wider now. I need to make sure that it's okay, and strong enough. I believe it is, but if necessary I can always cut these planks in half and have a glue joint between, but I really wouldn't like to do that because that's a lot of work. Yeah, so there's a question about the screws. So these screws are coming out there, just clamping the planks in. Sorry about the noise again. So yeah, these are clamping, and then on top of this strip planking there will be 2 layers of wood veneer that is already done. It's waiting there. It has been waiting for 2 years already. But I'm glad I got it because it's not easy to come by. It had to be made especially for this. And then on top of that veneer layers, there's gonna be a layer of fiberglass to protect everything. So this boat really doesn't rely on fiberglass with strength. The fiberglass is just to protect the wooden structures. And it should provide pretty stiff and pretty light for strength ratio structure. So this wood, this spruce that I'm using, it's not really a very heavy wood species. It's a little bit lighter than pine. Right. Okay, now I'm spreading again layer of epoxy on the back side of this plank to protect it from water. And yeah. This is the task that doesn't need to be done to all the planks when we get higher than this, because the rest of it can be done later from the inside. But this area I cannot access anymore after planks are in, so that's why I'm doing this now. And I'm pretty sure the fiberglassing these areas were kind of overkill. I'm now thinking that probably I won't doing any fiberglassing inside the boat, but we'll see about that. If there's any kind of danger of bumping something in, if there's danger of having impacts of some sort, so then the fiberglass might be necessary. Maybe bilges could be a good thing to have a fiberglass on before putting any paint there. But I know many of these kind of boats don't have any fiberglass inside. But still, we'll see about that. Now I'm a little bit further away, but I hope you can see enough of this. I'm just spreading some unthickened epoxy first here. Especially the plywood tends to soak up epoxy quite a lot, so I'm putting a little bit here so we can make sure that there's a good bond. Although this bond is really not that structural. This is just the top of a bulwark. But yeah, one note about the trip I made last week. We went from Helsinki to Sweden, southern Sweden, in one 4 to 5 days leg. It was 400 and something miles, nautical miles. The boat is it's my friend's boat. That friend that has been helping here as well. Now he's having a vacation there in Sweden. I'm not sure if you're watching. There's a storm there right now, so I'm not sure if you have been able to leave there just a bit yet. But one notice about the boat, it was this British-made, I don't remember the brand, British-made boat, very sturdy. And the key thing about that boat, that it was totally silent. It didn't squeeze and had any noise. If you have seen videos about new build boats, kind of mass-produced boats, they tend to be quite noisy inside when you're sailing. And that brings that what's really different in building a boat and building houses, for example, is that basically everything in boat is structural in a way or another. If something is loose, it will come loose, and you can't really do that. So that's why boats are so much harder to build, and well, maybe not harder, but labor intensive, because everything needs to be bonded together as good as possible. Okay. Yeah, those veneers veneers will be, the planking is in horizontal, and those veneers will be 45 degrees this way and that way, so 2 layers. So there's three kind of directions of grain or fibers, in this case wood fibers going. Same thing with fiberglass. If you buy a fiberglass that is triaxial, there's 3 directions of fibers in that. The idea is kind of the same. Same with this. All right, now we need that 400 grams of epoxy, which is a bit annoying to put in this one cup, but maybe I'll manage. I don't have any bigger clean cups in here now. Yeah, let's try to do the same. Although it was a real little bit on the, oops. People are getting bored, less viewers. Yeah, about 90. And there's someone coming. Oh, there's a visitor coming, so I'm gonna put audio off for a while. Sorry about that. Some friends came to say hello. Where were we? Mixing 400 grams of thickened epoxy. I think this cup is still good. First, something to drink. So, 400. I already have a pretty good feel how much that is. I don't know how many kilos I have used epoxy. Something like 150 at least, or more. This is how many kilos this was? It's not 20 kilos per container, and there's several empty of those already, so quite a lot. And then 120. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably this will have a whiskey plank, although I don't really like whiskey at all. But, I'm gonna mix mix the filler by hand this time, because that tends to put quite a lot of bubbles in the epoxy. You can maybe see there's bubbles coming out. But you only mix it a little bit with this. Quite a lot of that comes out. Yeah, now some of this. Still a little bit more. It's a little bit on the little bit more. It's quite hard to actually mix this by hand. It's really need to work it out and work it in there. Now I think it's good enough. Need to get it out of this cup again really fast because it starts to heat up quite quickly. Oh, these are just amazing. These are just bags for used in baking stuff. These are great for spreading beads of epoxy. I actually, back in the, I don't know, remember when, was gluing something, maybe those frames in or something like that. I bought just regular plastic bags and tried to use them for squeezing epoxy like that, and they didn't work at all. It was a total failure. Yeah, okay. These are the way to go. Soon it floats. Luckily, this is also wood that I hope it will float even though it isn't watertight. Yeah, hoping to get that day sooner than later. Okay, now I'm gonna spread a bit of epoxy in here. These joints as well. This is a little bit too thin or liquid. It should be a little bit thicker, but I think it will work out. This is probably not enough for this. Let's try to make it. Just barely, I believe. This should have been a little bit thicker. Oh no, and I forgot that. There's still a little bit in here now. Yeah, this was a little bit too liquid. It tends to fall out there too much. It will work. Okay. Change of gloves again. Yeah, sorry about the... Can I zoom this image? Try to zoom the image a little bit so you can see a little bit better over there. Did it work? The quality might be not that good, but you can see a little bit better back there. I can't move the camera, it's with the wire on the computer, so so yeah, that was my screws and the driver. Let's put it in. Sorry about the noise again. Okay, it seems to work. That looks good. Nice squeeze out as well. I'm pushing them down as well a little, so it pushes the board downwards. Looking good. Looking good. Nice. One more over there. Yeah. Nice squeeze out. Looking good. That needs a clamp or a screw. That seems to poke out a little bit. Yeah, that needs something, that joint. These joints can be a little bit tricky because if the joint is in the middle like that, kind of the edge of the plank comes out and this comes out, and there's no force to push it inwards. So let's try to fix that. Let's make a tripping hazard here. No, it doesn't work like that. I need to put another screw here. I need to push this that way a little bit because it doesn't. It wants to go straight from both ends. It won't go like that, like it should. Okay. Well, I'll figure that out in a while. There is still time before the epoxy cures too much. Okay. Otherwise, it looks like a curve for a boat, don't you think? Thank you guys for all the comments. Is Siniana who I think you are? Are you following this? Fly, yeah. This might be a little bit too heavy to fly, but all right, let's now clean up the squeeze out a little and check it out, how it looks. Just taking a little bit of the excess epoxy from the back side here and pushing it on the front. There should be a little bit more in here. I don't think that's really a problem. All right. Yep, that looks good except for that joint. I need to work on that a little bit still. But let's go and do the final plank and then we do the finalizing thing. Is the video quality okay even I zoom it over there? It looks all right on the screen, at least. All right. Whew. 3 hours in. Almost. Remember I did the vacuuming first. So maybe 2.5 hours so far. All right, so the last plank over there, it's a little bit shorter. So I think 100 grams should be enough for the first batch. So let's do that now. Whoops. Well, 150 it is. I'm used to making much larger batches, so the first tends to always be quite big. Pour. YouTube boat building gathering next year. Yeah, I'm open to ideas. These kind of fairs, or I have been in 2 years now on the Mets trade show. That tends to kind of gather naturally people there. So 45. I need to concentrate for a second. So yeah, the Mets trade is a kind of a natural gathering place. Okay. As you can see, these are good things to have, like a single use stuff, because in this time, while I'm doing some other things, the previous one is probably gone already. So yeah, that's just the way it is. All right, last plank for today. It was the second that I was, did I make it right way up? Yeah, it doesn't really matter because the outer side needs to be sanded afterwards anyway, so cannot avoid epoxy remains on the outside of this planking. Yeah, the overall area of this hull is approximately 100 square meters, the outside area, and I'm not sure how many times I need to sand it. After the planking, the first time, after the first layer of veneers is the second time, I think. Then after that, third time, and then fairing the hull. I think at least 2 times. So if you say 5 times of sanding the whole hull is needed. So not looking forward to that. Well, I'm hoping to get some help with that. So I don't need to do it all by myself every time. Right, I think that's good. Then, last time I did 400 grams. I think it was just barely enough for this one plank, but that is shorter. So I will do the 400 grams and use the rest for something else. Okay, that's done. I'm so glad that it has been not very hot. Oh no, I forgot to put another piece of gloves on top. Now I need to change these. Well, maybe it's time for another banana. Okay, so I can see there is some ambition to start own boat build project. If you want any advice, make it more with CNC. I have mentioned before that if I would start this now with this experience, I would probably not build that CNC, but I would buy this used CNC robot arm, 5-axis robot arm. That would allow to do all the frames, the shapes of the frames, and all the pieces and shapes with computer assisted design, and make even more design with computer. Now my process here has been, I have a 3D model of the boat, which is, well, it's accurate, yeah, but not complete in that way. And everything that I have been kind of taken out from that model and made for the CNC, it's basically 2D drawings. And yeah, that has been, yeah, it works, but it's quite labor intensive still to do all those things. And you have to be really careful in which position the 2D kind of planes go. With the frames it works well enough, but yeah, if I would do this again, I would model the boat much more carefully. It's part of the reason is that the software I'm using, the ArchiCAD software, that is architecture software really, it's not meant to do things like this. I would need to learn Rhino. Well, I know Rhino a little bit, but I don't really know that. You need some time to learn, but model the whole boat with Rhino exactly, and get the 3D models and the 3D shapes from there, straight from there, and then cut it with the 5-axis CNC. That is the way to go, not like this. This is much more manual, kind of in between. So yeah, that would have saved so much time in many cases. But yeah, it has been interesting to kind of develop this whole system to make this boat. I think overall this works quite well. The system I did the frames with, I would do them quite similar way, but as mentioned, with 5-axis CNC, I wouldn't have to be so careful with the measurements beforehand. Just make the kind of the frame and then put it on CNC, and then it would cut it in the perfect shape. And all these big pieces like those ballast kill timbers and all those packings around the masts, these things, these took so much time. It was so much time to put in those, planing all that material first, then figuring out how to put them in there, and all that kind of stuff. Those should have been made quite differently to be efficient. But still, there's a lot of material to glue in, and that's something that I might not have be able to avoid anyway. So yeah. All right. Now my hands are dry enough to fit new gloves in. It's really annoying to try to put new gloves when your hands are kind of still wet. It's almost 1500 watch count in this video, and there is a few of you who have been here from the beginning. How many have you been here from the beginning for 3 hours or so? I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Section 11. Yeah, the comment about the backside. Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that. I'm gonna take a small piece of plank, have a tape on it, and put it on the backside over there to make the shape good. So that is the way to go, I think. All right, last batch, I think. Let's make another 400 grams of thickened epoxy. Or yeah, I think I'm gonna do a couple of more batches to make those backside corners good. So that is still coming, but as for this planking, or this plank, maybe I'll do just 350 actually. A little bit more room for the filler. Yeah, and about the 3D model, I'm still actually considering to model the boat all over again with Rhino to get really accurate measurements for all the stuff that goes inside. But we'll see about that. Although all the stuff inside are more square than the hull. 350, 90. 105. What was I? Yeah, about that. Because ArchiCAD, the main downside is that when you model a cabinet or something, you can't really get 2D drawings of the parts out of that. And basically that CNC machine does only 2D stuff. Maybe I can now put some this stuff with the drill. So much faster. A little bit more. All right. I'm sorry, this might be very boring to watch, me just mixing epoxy. But, yeah, that's just, this is just something that normal videos don't really show that much, how much time it takes to mix the epoxy. That is actually quite significant amount of time. When my friend has been here helping with these glue ups, the main thing the help really is bringing is the help to mix the epoxy, mix the glue, everything ready. Because if you imagine how fast the spreading process is, how fast I can screw the plank down, this might be the majority of the time just mixing the epoxy. So yeah. Putting it into the bag and kind of working it out from here. We actually did, I didn't film it, but we did, on one day, we glued all these cleat mount things you might have been seeing. I did one by myself and then I prepared rest of them by myself, and then we glued all 7 in one day, easily. Just because there was 2 of us when I was putting the glue in, he can mix the epoxy for the next batch and vice versa. We change roles every now and then, and yeah, it went super smoothly and fast. Okay, last bag. And of course left my knife here on the floor because I'm like that. I tend to leave everything just lying around and then I'm looking for them. Where did I put that hammer and that some tool? All right. I hope this is enough for this. I think it is. Oop, there's some fiberglass remains. Those are super annoying. They stick to everything, really. Okay, this was surprisingly low amount of epoxy needed. There's actually only 2 frames that this plank is attached to. The third one is just there on the edge with the previous plank. But yeah, I think it's gonna be still good. I need to clamp that down there pretty well to get the shape right. There is only one of these things as well, so not much going in this one. Well, let's put some more in here. Okay, here we go. Right. And there's a little bit of a problem because this, I should have measured it a little bit more carefully. Maybe shorten the previous plank just a little bit to get the joint in the one frame this way. I think I can manage. Let's put this first in here. Nope. Didn't go right. Like so. I think I need to just put it on. Okay, this is a little bit tricky to do right. I hope it holds. Okay, looks good, I think. Okay, this actually holds pretty well, this one screw there. Yeah. All right. Now the plank is in. I'll wait the squeeze out to pull push out from there. The epoxy is a little bit slow, so when it has this pressure, it doesn't come off immediately. So it takes a while until all the squeeze out is actually out from there. No, I messed up a little bit. I really want to avoid kind of messing the machinery with epoxy. As you may know, it tends to stick to everything. And when it hardens, it's really hard to get off. Is there any new? Yeah, butt block is the name, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna put that backing block or back block there in the middle seam over there. This one looked pretty okay. Maybe I could put one here as well. Let's do that now. I'm gonna take, I have a few spare pieces of this planking material, just kind of trial pieces lying around, so let's make those blocks now. There's one, there's one, and I had the tape machine somewhere. It's over here. Let's put some tape on. The idea, of course, if you don't know, the epoxy doesn't stick to packing tape almost at all. So when I cover this with this tape, it doesn't stick to that plank over there. That's one. Okay, there's two. There should be one more, yeah. Let's put one on every of those joints. 3 of them, so it should work just fine. Yeah, and the idea, of course, is that no seam is on the same spot. So when I start the next layer of planking, the seam should be completely different place than this one. So yeah. Okay, here we have the blocks. Let's put some. No, I already did. So some screws from there. Let's try this now. I'll zoom out the image again so you can see the whole picture, so to speak. Let's move the camera a little. Yep. So the first seam is here. I have already a screw in here, but I think I'm gonna take that off and put a block. Yeah, it's still moving, so it's cold enough here so that the epoxy hasn't set yet, and that's a good thing. Plenty of working time to get these things. That's more like it. Now it's a little bit, it lifted up a little bit, so I'm gonna push it down. Maybe put that one screw through here. Carefully. Yeah, that looks good. It looks good now. Gonna put the second screw here. Yeah, that did the trick. It's looking great. The middle one was the worst of them. There's a little bit of a kind of the sharp corner here, so I try to pull it together with this block. Yeah, it worked a little bit, but not perfect just yet. Whoop! These gloves are not optimal for this. They tend to grab the screw and they rip off. Okay, it went in. I need another screw here in the middle. I think that will work. Actually, what I think this needs a block on this side as well, or something to push it in there. Maybe. Let's make another one. Yeah, that's a little bit tricky. It tends to kind of, the board wants to be straight. It doesn't want to bend, especially on the end. I learned that when I did the frames, the ends of the frame, the material of the frames, even it was quite thin, the end needed to be long enough so that when it pushed into the shape, there was enough kind of overhang to bend it all the way through. If it was too short, the end tended to, it didn't want to go in all the way to the shape it needed to be. So it's the same thing here. The end is hard to bend all the way in, but I think if I actually need a longer screw here through all those three pieces. Here. No. Luckily I have a good amount of screws in here in the shelf. looks better. Let's oh yeah. Yeah, that's now it's okay. Then the last one, there's just a tiny bit of bending there to do. Actually, this looks very good already. Yeah, it has pushed itself on the right spot. Yeah, there's a lot of squeeze out coming out from that joint. That looks good. All right, no need for this. Excellent. Hey, what do you know? The first row of planking is in. Yeah, it was a little bit more labor intensive than I actually expected. But yeah, the reason really is that there is this lower joint that needed to be filled. The next layer should be much more kind of straightforward. This bed and cove, it's really tight fit, so that doesn't really need just rolling a little bit of epoxy on both sides and pushing it in. It should be good. Although we still have these blocks here that need to be kind of glued in, so it should be much faster. Faster the next layers. But yeah, this is great. Did I consider steaming the plant? No, I didn't. Steaming, I have been asked this a lot when I did the frames, but this environment here is not really, it doesn't allow steaming. And if you steam stuff, you need to have it dry before you can glue it. So yeah, really no point. And this curve here is so gentle overall that it's not really necessary. There is actually on the work list next what I'm figuring out as we speak. The planking will start now here, and we're trying to do kind of these planking parties over the summer to get it going quickly as possible. But next thing I'm doing before we flip the boat over is to do the deck beams. So we have the side decks here, but they still need beams over there. Quite a many beams, and also these big frames. If you have been following, you know that the boat will have freestanding masts. One there in the middle, one there in the front. So it is a cat schooner rig. And the three frames here, these three frames are bigger frames. 1, 2, 3. These are thicker frames because they are on the mast. And these frames will continue to be kind of a circular round frames. So this frame will continue on top, and these deck beams on these frames will have a bigger deck beams, and they also will have knees. And I think most of the frames will actually have a knee. That's laminated kind of, I think it was a radius of 300 millimeters or something, but a laminated knee to every frame, and they attach to those deck beams. And I would like to do those before we flip the boat over, because it's much easier to do right now upside down, because they are on the low there, easy to glue. So I'm just now, I've been discussing with Mr. Tanton the design of the boat structures, about the details of those. How should I make them? There's still longitudinal kind of beam going on the other side of that deck. So there's a little bit of figuring out still with that. But after everything is figured out, I will order ready milled material for those beams. So from the same place we milled this planking, I will have them milled ready to right size so that I only need to chop them down and glue them in basically. So that will be some sort of process, but also making those knees. I already have done models and programs for the CNC for making molds. So I can put thin pieces of wood in there and push the mold together to make those laminated knees. So that is something coming up at some point in near future. But I would like to have them all installed before we flip the boat over. It doesn't really rely on this planking project or the outside project. I can do them whenever I can, but we'll see how my time is enough for everything. Maybe I can outsource some of the work, at least making the wood material ready to go. Yeah, there's quite a lot of joints to do there. It needs to join those beams, these beams. I need to, every deck beam needs to have a kind of joint in there to connect in that beam. So there's a little bit of work in there. But yeah, it might be so that when we have done most of the planking or all the planking, we can actually take the molds off from the inside. Then the inside of the boat is free, and it's a whole lot of room inside there to work. So that might be an option that we now concentrate on the planking first, and then we take all the molds off from the inside, and then we have a room to make all those inside things. But we'll see about that. All right. There's still 65 of you. Thank you so much being here. I think I'm gonna end this live stream here. It now has been almost 4 hours. Thank you for hanging with me. And I'm still going. I'm going still to go clean up this a little bit to get most of the squeeze out off from the surfaces I need to clean up anyway. And then I'm probably gonna go and make these radius, what's it called? Well, radius stuff. Mix some epoxy with wood dust and make those corners over there. So everything should be very strong and beefy. This has been nice session, and thank you for hanging. And I'll make another video about this process, how I made these planks and stuff, and that should come maybe. Well, I try to do it this week, but no promises there. I have plenty of work to do and plenty of stuff going on in here as well. So not sure how much time I have to make the video, but we'll see you. And if you want to support the project, I don't know if there has been any of my patrons here, but I thank my patrons so much. You have been that crew is amazing. And if you are in Finland during the summer, you can comment there or send me email or something. I will invite you in the planking parties. The first one might be this weekend. I don't know yet. There's still a little bit to figure out of this process, but we'll see. Yeah, thank you so much. Give a like and if you want. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.